How many times have you looked back in your life at the chances that you have missed? And you think back and you say, hey, I missed it. I missed this chance. I missed my moment. I missed my opportunity. I know I've done it. And one of the worst feelings is to be at a place where you think back and you look at the chances that went by and you didn't take advantage of them. It might be in relationships, in things that we dream for, business, so many things that we could have experienced that. And I know that as human beings, when we look back and we see that we missed a chance, that's one of the most destructive things that can happen to us, because not only we think back and we see that we missed it, but then that hinders us from in the future trying to take some chances and trying to take advantage of some opportunities. So I want to talk about some things and present to you some things from the Bible, and I want to share some ideas with you about how can you take advantage of those opportunities, how can you make the most out of them, and how can you live a life free of regret, where you look back and you can say, hey, I know I might have missed it in the past, but maybe I didn't really miss it. Maybe I did gain something from it. And I think that we are our worst, uh, we criticize ourselves more than anybody else. We look at our lives and we are so hard on ourselves so many times. And I believe that as we grow and as we progress in life and we become more mature and we learn how to deal with things, we can develop an ability of looking back and saying, "Hey, I'm grateful for what I went through. I know it was hard. I know maybe I missed the chance. I didn't take advantage of that opportunity. But just because that happened in the past, it doesn't mean that it's going to keep happening. It doesn't mean that God is not going to do something in my life. It doesn't mean that there's nothing better for me." And and I wanna share with you some, just like I said, some ideas of why is it that sometimes we miss chances, we miss opportunities. And the first reason is that we're just not aware. We're not aware that the opportunity or the chance was there. And I think back to, let's say, real estate. And a couple years ago, the real estate market was very favorable, and a lot of people didn't even realize. They didn't realize that that was the time to buy. That was the time where the interest rates were low and there's so many things that were positive for the buyer, and some people were just not aware of it. And now they can look back and say, I missed it. I missed the chance. I wasn't aware of that opportunity. I wasn't aware that that was right there for me to take advantage of it. And that happens to us in so many areas of our lives, where there's that opportunity, there's that chance for us to take advantage of it, but because we're not aware that it's right there, we just miss it. And that is something that happens to all of us. That is something that can happen to all of us. Another reason why we can miss a chance is lack of guidance or mentorship or knowledge. This is different than the first reason, because here we see the opportunity, we see the chance, we see that there's a way of us doing something or taking advantage of that moment, but we lack the knowledge, we lack the resources, we lack the guidance. And that's why it's so important that when you look at the things that you like, and you look at the passions that you have, and you look at the gifts that you have, it's always good to look at who's doing what you want to do and doing it well. And that's such an important lesson, because I believe that when we look at those people or organizations or companies or ministries that are doing what we want to do and are doing it well, once we learn from them, and we can ask questions, and we can see how we can get connected, how we can network, that will bring so much more clarity so that when you see the chance, when you see the opportunity, you can take advantage of it. So I would say look for those people. Look for someone. Start with that one person that maybe went through the same career that you're wanting to accomplish, or maybe they started the same business that you want to start, or they're running a healthy growing church, and just ask questions, network with them, see how you can bring something to the table, and in exchange they'll give you something that you can use for your current situation. And that is something that changed my life when I started just asking questions, even if it's a real quick conversation, but where I can speak about what I want to do, and I can ask questions, and I can add value, and they can add value. That goes a long ways. And in both the marketplace, in ministry, in life. So look for those people. Look for people that you can connect with, that you can aspire to do what they have done. And that's a way of making chances, making the most out of chances. Because next time you're in that situation, or next time your business is facing something that you already know that someone else faced it, and they were successful with it, you can go back to that person and say, hey, how do you deal with this? Same thing applies to every area of life, in marriages, in families, in friendships, relationships. There's so many areas that this applies to. And I think that's the power of network. So life is not meant to be done alone. Life is meant to be done with others. And it doesn't necessarily mean 24/7 with other people, having people up in your business, or you in their business. No, but having people that can keep you accountable, and people that you can keep accountable, and people that can just share ideas and encourage each other. I think that's such a beautiful, even biblical principle that Paul talks about encouraging each other, praying for each other, lifting each other up. That is something that we can apply in every area of our lives. Another reason why sometimes we miss chances, we miss opportunities, is fear of failure. And I think this one is the biggest one, because in the world that we live today, we pretty much, there's almost everything that happens we are aware of because of social media, the internet, so many voices, and people in those realms, just speaking and sharing, and making things available for others. So there's not that many things that we miss necessarily, and there's a lot of other people that you can connect to, just because the same reason of having the power of networking and social media and things like that. But the biggest thing that I believe makes us miss chances and opportunities is just fear of failure. It's the thought, the what if. What if I try this and it fails? What if I take a step and it end up not working? What if this happens? What if this happens? And fear can paralyze us. It can literally stop us from going towards our dreams. And as you know, this podcast is all about empowering you, allowing you, helping you to see more clearly, and be able to recognize things and do something about them. So we need to pay attention to fear. And why do I say that fear causes us to miss chances? Well, maybe you tried something else in the past and it didn't work. Maybe you tried a business idea in the past and it didn't work. Maybe you saw a family member or a friend that you loved dearly, and they tried something and it didn't work out. Maybe it could be with relationships. Maybe you have gone through some pains and things in relationships, or again, you have seen other people that have gone through things in their own relationships, and because of that, you're afraid and you miss chances, you miss opportunities. And that is something that we have to, it takes more than just resources of knowledge and just what can you do in the practical. It takes more work on the mental side, the mindset, even the spiritual side. And I wanna share with you a Bible verse that I love from James chapter 1. And on verse 3 it says, "For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow." When your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. In other words, testing, endurance. Testing, endurance. It doesn't make sense. We think about testing, and the last thing we think is a chance of something helpful, positive growing. When we think about difficulties and hardships and things that are painful in our lives, the last thing we think about is the chance for it to make something positive in us. But the Bible, James is saying, is writing, when your faith is tested, when you go through difficult moments, when you go through moments of hardship, you can be sure that there is a chance in that circumstance, in that situation, there is a chance somewhere for your endurance to grow. And that's how God works. There's sometimes that we go through things that they're not ever to harm us, they're not ever to stop us, to they're not ever meaning bad things for us. But maybe there's a chance for us to grow in a specific area that we need to grow if we want to be able to handle the glory of the next season. And I think that so many times we get stuck in a season, we get stuck in a circumstance because we are looking at the opportunity to grow in an area, but we don't take action to grow in that area. We see that we're doing something wrong, or we see that there's a chance for me to grow. Let's say I see that there's a chance for me to grow in this area, but and I'm recognizing it, I see it, and I even have people around me that can help me. But but because of fear, I allow it to take longer than it should, and I'm unable to go to the next stage, unable to go to the next season because I'm stuck not doing anything about that chance that's right there in front of me. And I believe that there's a lot of people that are stuck in the possibility of a chance, and they haven't moved forward because they haven't embraced the growth that can come through that. And it's so beautiful the way that James wrote it, because what this tells me is that the chance to grow, the chance that I'm hoping for, might not look like the chance that I'm expecting or the chance that I'm thinking of. In other words, the blessing might not look the way I think it looks. The opportunity might be different than the way I'm drawing it in my mind, the way I'm thinking about it. And that happens so many times, and we do this with God, where we pray for a blessing, we pray for a breakthrough, we pray for something, but we pray for it in a way that if it doesn't happen that way, we don't want it, we reject it. And I just wonder how many of us have been or are in current situations where we are praying for the breakthrough, we're praying for the miracle, we're praying for the opportunity, and we have it right there in front of us, but we're not seeing it because we already painted a picture of how it's going to look like, and God has painted a picture that's completely different to what we have created in our minds. So I love how James write that, because it brings things to perspective, and it tells me, it says, hey, your blessing might look different to what you have imagined. Actually, there might be a chance of growth in your pain. Actually, there might be a chance of endurance that can come from your current situation. And I love that. I love that. So if you've ever, if you have times, or maybe right now, you're looking back and you think about moments and you say, man, I missed it. I missed that chance. Well, I have good news for you. And the good news for you is that just because you missed that one or two or five chances, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be any more chances. There's going to be more chances because everything is a chance. Everything is an opportunity. If something negative can be an opportunity, imagine every other thing. If something that's hurtful and painful can be an opportunity, then everything is an opportunity. And I think that we have to, as a society and as people, we have to do a better job of, how do I put it? We have to do a better job of adjusting our perspective and not thinking in the moment and not thinking just with our physical eyes, but also think with our spiritual eyes, or see things with our spiritual eyes, and think different. Because again, you might be going through something that's hindering you, but there's a growth that needs to take place, and it only happens if you embrace it. If you embrace that process, if you embrace that moment, and if you're willing to do what it takes. And sometimes all it takes is just persevering and keeping your faith and keep putting one foot in front of the other. Sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes all it takes is for us to believe what we're doing, believe what God has said, and keep using our gifts and keep going after the things that God has put in our hearts. Sometimes drastic change need to take place and we have to adjust, whether practically or physically or spiritually. There are things that we have to move and shift and put in place. But the idea behind this is that everything is a chance, everything is an opportunity. Everything that we go through happens for a reason, and it happens for a good reason. Even though in the worst of moments and in the most painful moments, yes, we can't neglect the fact that we go through difficult moments that are very hurtful and very painful. What I'm saying is that there's always a chance for something positive to grow. There's always a chance for something positive to grow. But we're the ones that make that. We're the ones that make that chance worth it. You know what I think about, and what I when I look at my life, yes, I've looked at moments where I feel like I've missed the chance. And I feel like I've learned from it, and I promise myself that whenever that comes in the future, I'm gonna try to do a better job of recognizing it and taking advantage of it. But when I look at those moments, the biggest thing that I'm scared of is missing something that God wanted me to get, that I didn't get because I was focused on the physical thing, on the fear or the doubt or the things that I lack. Because if I do that, that means that I'm limiting God and I'm limiting His power and I'm limiting His calling upon my life. And that's a scary thought, because I wanna be someone that God can trust with His dreams in my life, and He can look at me and say, I am going to trust you with this because I know that out of every opportunity, whether good or painful or hurtful, you're going to make the most out of it. And I think that when we start living in that way, that's the breakthrough. More than the miracle and the thing that that we feel like we need, and more than the thing that we're praying for, that it might be something that's physical, something that's material, or something else. More than those things, we need to receive the breakthrough of making the best out of every opportunity. And if we do that, we're gonna live so much more relaxed. Because I look at this verse and I look at the perspective that James is trying to instill in us. And it's like, okay, I'm going through something, it's hard, it's painful. Where's the blessing in it? Where's the chance to grow in it? Where's the opportunity in it? And when we look at that, we start looking at, and we become intentional in walking out of that season with a victory, even if it's small. So, how are you going to look at your current situation? How are you going to look at your current circumstance and your difficulties or the season that you're in? And what are you going to do? How are you going to be intentional so that when you're done in that season, when you're walking out of that season, you're walking away with a victory, even if it's small. Even if it's not the victory that you thought, that's huge, and that big breakthrough, we believe that that's going to come, but it might take a while. But in this season, what are you doing? In this season, how are you making the most out of it? And that's the perspective that I think that we all need. That's the perspective that I need, that we all need. So instead of looking for the big chance, look to make the best out of your current situation. And that's the main idea of this episode. Instead of looking for that big chance, that big opportunity, look to make the most of what you're going through today. Look to make the most out of your daily living. Look to make the most out of your job. Look to make the most out of your relationships with friends, family. Look to make the most even in those painful moments. Look to make the most out of them. The last thing we want as people is to waste a season of life. Is to waste a season of life, because if we waste a season of life, that means that we live that season of life away from God. Because there's nothing in God, there's no season that's wasted, there's no moment that's wasted. Yes, difficult, yes, hard, yes, hurtful, there are going to be moments like that, but nothing is wasted. So if we look back to our lives and we see a moment or a season and we believe that that season was wasted, that means we probably took God out of that season. We took God out of that situation, because otherwise it would have not been wasted, and something positive, a blessing would have came out of it. So I hope that this talk, this conversation today has added some insight and perspective to your current situation, and empowers you, and allows you to see things different, to dream, and to approach different life circumstances in a different way, in a way that empowers you and allows you to pursue your God-given dreams. Thank you for listening today. Thank you for your faithfulness with this podcast, and we encourage you that as you continue listening to these episodes, that you share with other people, share with those who are important to you, friends and family, and people who can also benefit and be blessed by listening to this podcast. We'll see you next time.